Welcome back, Cincinnati Bengals fans. We are running through the jungle here with your roaring reactions. I have Justin Lacey and Tim Lyons, myself, B Dirt, Brandon Harriet. How's it going, fellas?
Can't do anything any better than what we just witnessed today. I want to say on Sunday, but today's Saturday. This football afternoon just kind of threw me off because I'm just thinking that the whole time I got to go back to work in the morning. But no,
Oh,
tomorrow's Sunday for more football. So
2 weeks
what
in
a
a
win,
row.
man!
Yeah,
Yeah,
two
I'm
weeks in a
feeling
row,
good.
Saturday football. I don't mind it, though. I don't mind it. Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing excellent, man. Excellent. We just got a W. Makes my Saturday a hell of a lot better, hell of a lot easier, and I'm in great spirits.
Yeah, got a little bit of the cardiac cats back in action today. A little come from behind. I really did. I felt like, with the exception of a couple of, big plays from them, I thought we were playing better, but I was afraid we were going to run out of time. I really was. So, but we didn't. We were outgained 424 to 378, but pulled off the 27-24 3-point win when we're favored by 3 points. So once again, Vegas really good at setting odds. Not all the news, good news though. Had a couple of Bengals go out with injury. Jamar Chase came out in a sling, and it looks like DJ Reader could miss the remainder of the season with a knee injury. Not good news, and I feel bad for Reader too. Going into a contract year, you never want to see that injury. But going into a contract year, it's especially painful to watch. But you guys, what were your opening thoughts here of the game overall? Justin, what'd you think of it?
All right, so I'm just really proud. I'm really proud of this team. That right there, my opening monologue is going to basically be that was a culture win. Zach Taylor had preached culture a lot in his tenure as a Bengals head coach. Early on, when we were losing a lot of games, people laughed at it. Then we started making our runs and deep playoff runs with Joe Burrow came in the fold. And when Joe Burrow went down, it just showed that the culture still can withstand itself, even if our best guy is gone down. And it just shows that this is a mark of a dangerous team. So we're getting hot at the right time. I understand that the injury bug also hit us at the wrong day too, because we're trying to make a playoff push to get a playoff spot locked up, I should say. And it just DJ Reader going out hurt. You saw it with the rush defense, and it also hurt when Jamar Chase went down too. But they still was able to rally around that and didn't show that we're still going to go out there and win this game, even when it felt like that everything was starting to work against the Bengals. Minnesota got incredibly fortunate a number of times during this game. The refs were on their side for the most part. We didn't get away with lucky calls. They did. And in spite of all of that, the Bengals still showed them that this ain't no moral victory, even with the avalanche of points that we did in the fourth quarter. We're going to go out there and put out there and show a statement win. And damn it, they did it. So I tip my cap as my overall opening statement about this Bengals ball club, man. What a win.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, when you start talking about the referees, I think everybody was clamoring for the defensive pass interference there when they threw the ball at the tee. Now, that's, there was some T. Higgins is down there somewhere in that throw. I don't know that was it was, hey, it's third down. It's going to be a punt, or T is going to have to make a play on the ball. But yeah, I there was some, good, bad, and ugly. I thought about it. But again, that culture, I agree with you 100%. That man, they battle. The coaches keep making changes to the game plans, and the players keep making adjustments as well. Tim, what'd you think of the game?
First half had me worried. I know Braden was seeing my text messages and everything, and I was like, the defense needs to tighten up. We need to figure out what's going on. They were running the ball, throwing to the tight ends. Tight ends were open. Tight end. I was worried that first half. I was like, oh man, here we go. And then the second half came along, and they moved the ball right down the field, to open up the the second half and scored that touchdown. And you know, I wasn't all unicorns and rainbows over here. I was kind of worried. I was like, oh man, here we go. You know.
Oh, we know. We saw the group chat, bro.
Yeah, I was just, you know, I wasn't sure if the defense was going to tighten up or if we were going to start moving the ball well. The third quarter came along. We didn't really move the ball at all in the third quarter. Well, I don't have any, you know, fabulous things that I wrote down for notes on in the third quarter, but in the fourth quarter, you know, they finally came out, moved the ball, scored, put points on the board, tied the game up, won the game in OT. You know, I am very proud of these guys. You know, it's been a conversation that I've been part of, and you know, I've got friends that are big time Steelers fans, and you know, they talk about the tradition or the leadership that the Bengals have that they don't have, and that proves it today. You know, us being down 17-3 after the third quarter and come back and win 27-24. Keep it up, guys. Keep it up. I enjoy watching you guys play, even though, you know, you make me, you know, want to reach for the blood pressure medicine. But you guys did a wonderful job.
I'm going to actually go ahead and say this too, because look, we almost got the Jake Brown and Pumpkin game when I was watching, as we were watching that game in the first half. You know, he didn't look good. I felt like that they were trusting too much on his arm strength a little too much instead of actually running the ball. I actually tweeted that out during the game, is that you can't play into the hands of this Minnesota's defense right now. They wanted to go up early in the game, and it felt like when they went up 7-3, it was going to feel like the Cleveland Browns game all over again back in week 1. And that all they want to do was just churn out the clock and run the ball and run the ball and run the ball, because even in the second half, the defense didn't really show no willpower to stop it, except for certain spurts. They did kind of get themselves together on certain drives, but the backup running back for the Minnesota Vikings, I can't even get his name right now, but he killed it, man. He ran all over us for the most part of the afternoon. But at the end of the day, again, this is where I come back and say, like, it never truly felt like Minnesota was trustworthy enough within their own, you know, personnel. And I feel like that they were impatient, that they wanted to get the ball to Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison, as I mentioned with the fortune, they were very fortunate. Jordan Addison played one hell of a game. I give him that 2 touchdown passes, 2 touchdown receptions, but he was very fortunate to catch that ball that he struck down the field, that he just went streaking down the field for his first touchdown. That ball should have been felt incomplete if that was literally any other receiver, but it was just a fortunate bounce.
Neither one of those passes should have been thrown.
It should have never been thrown at all. They were just very fortunate. They were just very fortunate passes for him. And I think that you started noticing that this Minnesota Vikings team is just getting really, really lucky that these balls are just playing right into their hands. And I felt that way when the 49ers and the Vikings played when Kirk Cousins was still healthy. Yeah. I felt that way then. And that even though the Vikings won, they played aggressive and tough at home, they were very fortunate with some of the throws that Kirk Cousins made that just magically happened to land in that lap of the receivers to make big plays. And that's what happened almost today. But the Bengals were resilient enough and matured enough to overcome it. And that's where I have to tip my cap off to the coaching staff, offense and defense, especially, that you've weathered through the storm. Miles Murphy had himself an afternoon too. So, but I needed to compound on a lot of that, because Jake Browning almost had that pumpkin game everybody's still sitting out back waiting for. But here's the thing that nobody's talking about. Didn't Jake Brown already have that when we played the Steelers the first time? And against the Baltimore Ravens in the second half of that game, when Burrow did go out initially with his injury, if he already kind of went through that a little bit. So I feel like that people still can't believe that he's playing this good of football. And he didn't play good in the first half. But look at the total stats, man, and look at the throws that he made. So he got very fortunate with T. Higgins making big-time catches too, and Tyler Boyd making catches too. But at the end of the day, he was also without Jamar Chase for most of the fourth quarter and in overtime. He didn't have his guys. So, and you still be able to make big plays happen. Sorry, I had to go on that little rant there.
I'll tell you that my notes here are pretty much a backing up the points you guys have already made. I think we watched the game very much so in the same prism. Mullins 2 touchdowns to Addison, a shallow crossing route and DJ Turner, who continues to give up big play here and there, which you expect from a rookie. But what a play toy, man! To have somebody that can actually cover that shallow crossing route and stick to him like glue. That pass, if it would have been a good pass, it would have been batted down. It had to be a bad pass at his toenails and have him drip it off the ground in order to run it in. And it shouldn't have been throw because he was getting it when he threw it. And then the other one back across his body into traffic. Everybody yelled, no, no, no. And then Vikings fans yelled, yay.
I thought it was picked. I thought it was going to get intercepted.
Yeah. That was the luckiest pass on earth. He got luckier than hell. It should
have
been passes or batted down. I know. It is what it is.
And then Hawkinson starts off hot, right? And they hit a couple of the backup tight ends too. But I think he only had one catch in the second half. He ended up with 6 catches for 63 yards. And if you tell me that going into the game, I take it. Because that's a win for us for what we've been doing. And I think I saw some adjustments. I saw some guys, rotate down. I saw Dax Hill playing him some man on man, which I liked seeing. I thought at that point, I thought Pratt also did some better coverage on him as well. But I remissed if I didn't mention a guy that we've been clamoring to see more of. DJ Ivy goes down on a punt return. That doesn't look good. Non-contact knee. That's never a good thing. And he was tearing up, getting carted back into the locker room. So
you do wish him well for the young kid, but I do want to reiterate something because along the lines that we all were saying about the first half and all that stuff, I was jotting down my notes of the game as I was watching it. And I was watching with the mindset, even though I had no doubt that we weren't going to be competitive and should come back and I didn't say we didn't win this game, but I had watched the game from the lens of writing down bullet points like, look, this is why the Bengals are probably going to lose this game because of this. And one of the things that you mentioned was we still can't cover tight ends. TJ Hawkinson, he made that great catch on 3rd and 14 where we just played, was a dime defense, nickel defense where all the guys in the secondary rushed 3 passers deep in their own end zone too. And that was just like, oh, really? This continues to happen again. And then they got another guy, Josh Oliver, and then their 3rd string tight end. And it almost felt like that they were beating us, playing our own game of how we beaten other teams when we had our collection of tight ends to just catch great passes out of the backfield or screens or wheel routes or whatever the case it may be. It felt like they were running the Bengals offense with Jake Brown and / Joe Burrow today. And that was frustrating. But late in the game, and this was, I believe, the final drive before overtime when Trey Henderson got the strip sack, they showed him the same look. And they knew Nick Mullins was going to make that same exact throw to the tight end. And at that time, I didn't mind it because Logan Wilson was right there for the stick hit and make him short, and they had to punt the ball. So they adjusted in due time. It took a while, but I did want to bring that up, that it was frustrating to watch too.
Yeah, and one of the things that looks a little more lopsided this game than the past two, running the ball 18 times by running backs versus 42 yards passing. But again, we scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. We scored 3 in overtime. So 24 of our 27 points were after the first 3 quarters.
Yep.
You're playing from behind. You're not going to run the ball as much. I get that. But we still did run it some in that 3rd and 4th quarter a couple times just to keep them honest. And I think that makes a big difference in our passing efficiency and blocking. Kappa also came out for a couple plays. Cody Ford went in and I didn't notice. I was looking. I was like, uh-oh. But he held up just fine. Their interior defensive linemen aren't going to be the best in the league, but all things, good Bengals win all in all. It's a game we normally lost, right?
Right.
For the past 3 years.
That's the key right there. As you just said, this is a game that usually the Bengals lose. And we're always blaming, they didn't run the ball enough. The official screwed us with this call and that call. the offensive line, once we lost such and such guy, and now we're giving up big time sack. The offensive line played really well down the stretch. Again, I understand that they gave up a couple sacks, but they gave Browning a lot of airtime back there in the pocket. And I was just like, Browning, you got plenty of time, bro. If you get sacked on this play, it's on you. And that's how I was watching it. And that was even, and I straight up forgot Alex Kappa went down and left the game for a little bit, and Cody Ford had to come in to replace him. I straight up forgot that even happened because the O-line still gelled as a nucleus unit. So, I just had to say that. Give O-line some proper credit.
To me, it looked like he rolled an ankle or sprained foot, something along those lines. But he came back and played pretty effectively after that. Hey, we appreciate all you guys rocking with us, whether you're on Spotify, if you're on Apple Pod, Google Pod, wherever you get your podcast, or if you're watching us on YouTube, we appreciate it. Make sure you go ahead, hit that thumbs up, like, subscribe, rate us those 5-star reviews, share us with a friend, tell a friend to share us with a friend. We appreciate all the support we get from you guys every week, and we keep building this thing up, and we appreciate it. So we're going to take a quick break. But while we're doing it, get those likes out there. All right, we are back, Bengals fans, here with the Roaring Reactions, the Running Through the Jungle crew on the Fans First Sports Network. And it is that time of the week again where we give out our game balls. Offensive and defensive game balls. This could swing. We've had a few of them that were pretty obvious. This is a little less obvious, so I'm kind of interested in this one. We'll start off with Tim. I want to, before we do that, before we go to the game balls, I do want, because he's not going to get a game ball. So their running back Ty Chandler.
Ty Chandler, okay.
Ty Chandler ran a 4.38 40 and broke into our secondary and was instantly caught by DJ Turner. Also pretty fun to watch. 4.38 40 speed just ain't gonna pop it on our defense. That's kind of fun. That's kind of fun to have back there. So I wanted to make sure I remember to get that in. That was my last note there. So Tim, we'll go over to you for your game balls. Who you got for your offensive and defensive game balls, Tim?
My offensive game ball is going to go to Jake Browning and T. Higgins. It ain't one person going to get that. Without Jake and T.
Are you going to split the ball long ways or right down the center? Like
right down
how we splitting
it? Right down the center. They're both getting my offensive game. They're co-game ballers. Why? Because Jake proved in the fourth quarter and T catching those touchdowns. Without them too, we would have never came back in this game. Now, defensive game ball. I want to just give it to Trey because he had 1.5 sacks. But that ain't going to happen. I'm sorry. But my game ball is going to go to Jermaine Pratt. Jermaine Pratt played hell of a ball today. Without that stupid offsides penalty that they called on Hendrickson, which it was not. If you watched it in slow-mo, Hendrickson was not offside. And that would have been a pick 6 for Jermaine Pratt. So Jermaine Pratt, you're getting my game ball, buddy. Keep it up.
I dig it. That's 2 weeks in a row, a penalty called on Trey Hendrickson late in the game. That both of them were kind of ticky-tack by the letter of the law. The late hit was a late hit. It just wasn't a thumping hit. It wasn't much of anything last week. But this week, he did start before the ball was snapped. But if you go that clip by clip, he's not across the ball yet.
Yeah, I watched the slow-mo. I watched the slow-mo before we started this show. And I was watching him. Motion went, he jumped. But as soon as the ball was snapped, then he crossed the line of scrimmage. The refs have been our enemies today, so.
It felt like that was what you saw from Von Miller all those years because he had time to snap so perfectly that it looked like he was offsides to the point where I thought he was actually offsides. But here's the thing. I'm not going to argue against the call. Essentially, I'm not going to be those chiefers and stuff like that because of what happened to them against the Bills with Kadarius Toney. Look, it was an offsides penalty. It was unfortunate. It wiped out a pick six because that was one hell of a play. It had, and the offsides penalty didn't have nothing to do with that. Jermaine Platt made an incredible play, but the bottom line is, it was just frustrating because that should not have been a backbreaker to allow the Colts to. I'm sorry, the Vikings to go down and score again because the defense, while deflating as that is, you still had them back up all the way back. And you still missed a golden opportunity, and they was able to get a free 5 yards on 2nd and 5, and then, they scored on that drive. So that's what I needed to say about that personally.
Well, sorry, Brandon.
You're good.
My whole opinion is this: if we would have lost, it would have been a whole different ball game. I don't care. We got screwed on a couple plays. Jermaine Pratt was one of them. The no DPI called when T caught that ball, and he was dragging on him and holding on him and all kinds of stuff. Refs, like I don't know what's wrong with them. 1 minute they'll call a DPI for breathing on a player. Next minute they're not calling it. So if we would have lost today, those penalties would have been huge for us, and we would have all been pissed.
Justin, we're gonna flip it over to you. Who do you have for your offensive and defensive game balls, my man?
Like I said, this is going to be a very tough one to do, but I do like the direction that you went, Tim, with splitting the ball down the middle and giving one half to Jake Browning and the other one to T. Higgins. I'm not going to copy the same formula, but I am, by a slight margin, I'm going to give this game ball to T. Higgins because it felt like that he turned into the alpha dog today. This was his contract game today. And if it wasn't for him making the adjustment on that ball was supposed to be picked by the corner of the Vikings that he ended up catching and had the enough awareness to keep his body and his toes inbound to contort his hand over the goal line and score the go-ahead touchdown. If he doesn't do that, this not saying that we're not going to not say that we weren't going to score, but there's no guarantee that you're going to score a touchdown right there. He was at the 2 and he was able to twist and turn, get his long arms across the goal line. That was the play of the game and is honestly a top 10 play of the entire year across the NFL in general. So T. Higgins is getting my offensive game ball by a slight margin because, look, you can't put it past Jake Brown and Magic performing well again. That dart that he threw on the right sideline of Tyler Boyd, that Boyd just hustled and catched, that was a hustle play by Tyler Boyd, and he had enough awareness himself to, again, break enough tackles, stay in bounds, get the proper amount of yardage needed to be right there, basically to make it a chip shot field goal for McPherson. So enough game balls can go around on offense, but I'm going to personally land it on T. Higgins as my offensive game ball prediction. Now here comes the defense. Because I do agree with you, Tim. I did like the Jermaine Pratt. That really should have been a 1 sack for him. But I'm also glad that Trey Henderson got there too and make it a half sack because I'm rooting for Trey Henderson to stockpile them sack numbers up so he can get the steal the defensive player of the year award from basically everybody. But that really should have been his sack. But I'm not going to go with him with my game ball. I want to also go with Trey Henderson because I've been beating the drum. He is the big dog, and quite frankly, I would not be surprised if, Brandon, you were to give it to him. But I'm actually going to go with Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton stayed getting tackles for losses. He also was the person that stopped the Vikings from scoring another touchdown because they was just going crazy for real in that first half. But for him to get that first INT covering Justin Jefferson in double coverage, he brought the energy and he brought the fire. So for me personally, I'm landing with Mike Hilton. He's showing that he's the senior captain on that defense today, and gotta give it to him for me.
That's a good shout out. I like Hilton there on a game ball. Yes, the tackle for a loss. He had a big tackle for a loss on an RPO. The interception at first glance, right? It looks like a terrible throw from Nick Mullins. When you go back and watch the replay, the reason why it looks so terrible is because Jefferson, after Mike Hilton read it perfectly and jumped the route, Jefferson then abandoned the route, the crossing route, and went to the post. So he was supposed to cross there. Mullins threw it where he was supposed to. Hilton saw it and immediately jumped it. And that's why he made that play. So it was actually a really good play, more so than it was a bad throw. So, I like the game ball there with him. The Browning and T seems to be the combo here we're going with on offense. You make an argument. Browning had, 324. He had 2 touchdowns. Did have an interception. Completed passes to 11 different targets. That's pretty outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who had the most catches?
I'm going to go with
Our boy
Chase
Tanner.
Brown.
Our boy Tanner.
Tanner. Yep, that's true.
Tanner Hudson, 5 catches, man. So becoming a good outlet for him. Glad to see that production coming from our tight end room now, and Tanner Hudson seems to be the cream of the crop in that room. But even though we only had 4 catches for 61 yards, T. Higgins was the outlet, especially after Chase left. When we needed a big play, they just threw it up to him. And that touchdown pass where he contorted his body and threw the ball over the pylon behind him, I don't think people realize how hard that is. He's being drugged one way by the defender, and his big physical receiver with strong enough hands to palm it one-handed and spin that the other way. Mm-hmm. And again, you hear the whole terminology of gang tackle, run to the ball, There's a defensive back just became an audience watching that. Can't let that happen, man. That's bad defense by the Colts. If that would have been our defense doing that, I would have been livid. But our guys don't do that. They all go to the ball. And again, I thought the defensive backs, Hilton stepping up, without Cam Taylor-Britt out there, that was really good. But 12 tackles and should have had a pick 6. I'm giving it to Pratt too. Miles Murphy, you gave a shout out to.
Honorable mention for me.
He definitely played his best game. Awuzie has looked better the past couple weeks. I thought they did a good job. I think you kind of have to pick your poison, right? When you've got Hawkinson, Jefferson, Addison out there, and they were just like, you know what, Addison's going to have to beat us.
Yeah.
He almost did. He had a great game. BJ Hill with that interception. I mean, that's got to be mentioned. That's 2 weeks in a row. That one literally fell in his lap today.
Yeah.
So a lot of good plays on D, even though we gave up the points. Like I said, 2 of those touchdowns could have easily been turnovers. I'm going to leave it up there. Before we get out of here real quick, we got a lot to watch this week. The game on right now, the Steelers and Colts, a big game to us. We got the Texans, a big game to us. We got a lot of big games to us. The Browns are a big game to us. There's a lot of things to take a look at. So
yeah, Broncos game tonight too.
Yeah.
As we're recording right now, the Steelers are down 24-13 early in the third quarter. 24-13. Yeah, I said that right. Yeah.
24-13. I'd appreciate it if we would just not score any more points, because I've just blindly been betting the under on the Steelers all year. I've only lost twice. You know what I mean? It's a pretty good. It's a pretty good gig. Also, I did the same thing with the Iowa Hawkeyes. If you need more of this, gambling predictions, go check out Pay Dirt. It's a good show. Pay saved me last week. I had a rough week.
Dividends. Pay Dirt pays dividends. I like that. Yeah.
Yep. So let's talk about a real quick, off the top of the cuff, matchup with the Steelers next week. Saturday game, 4:30 in Pittsburgh, my backyard. So I have to hear it from Steelers fans all week. It'll be fun. A game we desperately need. We need to. I want to just put them out of their misery too. Justin, what's your quick take here on the Steelers game?
You got to bring the street fight to this team. You haven't won an AFC North game yet, and this you should have lost them in the first place. But I get it. Jake Brown, his first start, he had to get his flow together, understand game flow. You're going against T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, but you were still in your home stadium. And if there was any team that you match up really well against in your own division, it's Pittsburgh. Sorry, but the brass of the Steelers just does not look strong to me this season at all. Even though I do give Mike Tomlin credit for what he's had to deal with this season. Getting the 7 wins is no easy picnic for the way how they played on offense. But you got to just, we'll get more into it obviously this week, but you got to take the street fight to them and put them out of their misery, just like you just said.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. A quarterback play for the Steelers has not looked great all season, and I don't think doesn't sound like Kenny Pickett's going to be back, so they're probably looking at another Mitch game. Tim, quick take on the Steelers game coming up next week.
It's AFC North football, man. It's time. This is where blood, sweat, and tears are going to happen. These next 2 games that we have left with the Steelers and the Browns. This is AFC North football. It's do or die for it. It's do or die time for both of us. We need the W's. It's. Like I said earlier today, Steelers, they don't really have a leader and they don't really have an identity. But that does not mean that we cannot lose. But one thing Jake Browning said was, when he first came out, against the Ravens, that was like week half for him. Against the Steelers was week 1.5 for him. Now he's got some starts under his belt. I can see Jake doing a little bit better against the Steelers, and let's hopefully we can pull out the W. Who day?
Yeah, I agree. The one thing I think that he cannot do that he did in this game, we gave up 5 sacks. 4 of those I think are on Browning for holding the ball too long.
Yeah, definitely.
You're playing against Highsmith and T.J. Watt. It's 1, 2, and if you get to 3, you've eaten it. So that's one of those things where we need to make sure we're getting the ball out on 2 or 2.5. That's the only thing. Now, check us out on Wednesday, live on YouTube, Thursday morning for your morning drive commute, all running through the jungle. I'm going to tell you who I think we should pick on in this game, and it's going to be a little bit of a hot take. Should be fun, but we will dive more into that. Coach speak, the coach's cliff notes, pretty boring this week. Again, Zach Taylor is not going to give us the injury information. We got to wait and see, and we got to look and everything. So we'll dive a little bit more into that this week as well with the Jamar Chase. Obviously, a big deal. But I think Reader and Ivy, both those DJs, look like it looks like we're down to 1 DJ.
Yeah.
So can we get 2 chases? That's the next thing we got to look at. But yeah, big win for the Bengals, and like we said, man, Justin, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is a culture win, not giving up, fighting, clawing, and this is the stuff I wanted to see from this team once we had Joe Burrow go down. Because if we can do this now, it sets that table for when Joe Burrow comes back next year. We got to play that same way and that same intensity and not count on him to carry us. And I'm calling that from the coaching staff to the entire 53-man roster has to do the same thing when he gets back. I think we need to run the ball well. I think we need to be a little more balanced and not put everything. It's easy to put it on his shoulders because he is next world. And I think we need to. Everybody's got to carry their own weight as a team if we want to get over that hump. The expectations have changed. The expectations no longer are to be a 500 team, to win, to hopefully get a winning season, to hopefully make the playoffs. The expectations are now to win the division and get to a Super Bowl. That's it.
Yeah.
So I dig it. So for Justin Lacey, Tim Lyons, that's my rant for the day. We appreciate you guys rocking with us. Join us again. Cut to the chase on Tuesday. We got Running Through the Jungle on Wednesday. We'll be making some more deep dives into our matchup next Saturday at 4:30 with the Steelers. But until then, Hoo Day and go root for those AFC teams to lose.
Hoo Day.
Yeah, Hoo Day Nation. Yeah. Go root against the Texans, please and thank you. We need a big giant L from them. We'll see you guys Wednesday.